Next, I'd like to welcome Eliane Ubali-Joro, the Executive Director of Sustainability in the Digital Age and the Global Hub Director in Canada for Future Earth, and Dominique Berube, Vice President of Research and Graduate Studies at Concordia University, to share an announcement about sustainability in the digital age.
Bonjour tout le monde, c'est vraiment un grand plaisir de me retrouver à Ottawa, bien sûr, dans une communauté que je connaissais très bien de l'autre côté de la clôture, évidemment. Maintenant que j'ai rejoint l'Université Concordia depuis 2 mois et demi, c'est vraiment un grand plaisir que j'ai de faire une très courte et la plus courte possible introduction à ma collègue. J'ai joint l'Université Concordia beaucoup en raison de sa capacité d'innovation et de diriger des initiatives différentes dans notre écosystème de recherche qui veulent vraiment faire une différence justement sur cette question que la conférence ici se préoccupe année après année sur la question de la mobilisation des connaissances et comment réussir ce transfert. This conference is always about all connecting, decision makers with the knowledge producers, measuring research impacts, a perennial problem that we've been discussing for many years in general. I think the pandemic, Simon Kennedy was discussing this morning that the pandemic has even revealed even more the issues that we have, how to produce the kind of knowledge we use, how to find the knowledge that exists, and how to use it itself. So the reality is still there about how to make this happen. At the same time, I think we're making progress. I'd say there's more and more people interested thanks to the multiple efforts that are made in the ecosystem about investing in that. And again, Merad, as everybody's thanking you, thank you again for all the efforts in leading this with this conference. And many institutions like Concordia are exploring different solutions and how to support, I think, the knowledge mobilization. And we're just here to launch, in fact, one of these new initiatives that Concordia has been developing. Concordia has been quite involved in terms of launching those initiatives. I've got my colleague Xavier Hervé, who's here today also, who's leading the District 3 Hub on entrepreneurship. We've launched some institutes on applied AI, but also the Next Gen Cities Institute. We've recently launched the SHIFT initiative, which is about social transformation initiatives. And this time, Concordia has decided to try the new model or sort of a pilot project of a think tank within the institution. So we've heard of all kinds of research units, centers, a consortium, a lab, an institute, and now we're trying to think about what would be a think tank within the institution, what would be the use, what would be the purpose. So it's not just about research, it's also about advocacy and how we can support our faculty members about interacting with policymakers. Alors, c'est vraiment cette initiative que nous voulons lancer aujourd'hui, Sustainability in the Digital Age. It's about accelerating the positive impacts of digital technology to meet the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as set out, as you well know, by the United Nations. We know it's a federal priorities. We know that all institutions are trying to integrate that into their strategic plan. Démarrer un tel think tank serait impossible, bien sûr, sans des donateurs. C'est ainsi que les think tanks fonctionnent. Dans notre cas, bien sûr, il faut absolument qu'on soutienne, qu'on remercie le FRQ, le généreux donateur initial qui a accepté de soutenir l'initiative. Et bien sûr, mon rôle, à partir de là, s'arrête ici. J'ai vraiment le plaisir de vous introduire Eliane Ubali-Joro, qui est la directrice générale de l'initiative. En français, je l'ai appelée « Développement durable à l'ère du numérique ». Ça fonctionne? Parfait, merci. Et qui est également directrice du pôle canadien de Future Earth. Donc, bien sûr, Eliane compte, plusieurs d'entre vous la connaissez, elle est nouvellement membre du conseil d'administration de Génome et également plusieurs dizaines d'années d'expérience en politique, dans des politiques scientifiques. Alors, ces qualités de leader, je pense, vont être essentielles à la réussite du think tank. Merci beaucoup. Et Eliane, à ton tour.
Merci beaucoup, Dominique, pour la belle introduction. Je voudrais aussi remercier les étudiants de l'Université Concordia. En 2009, j'étais encore professeure affiliée à l'Université McGill et je faisais de la consultation en partenariat public-privé à travers la planète et je faisais du conseil à différents gouvernements. Et les étudiants de l'Université de Concordia ont invité Wangari Maathai, la prix Nobel kenyane, pour venir parler à la communauté montréalaise. Et ça a été l'opportunité pour moi de rencontrer mon héroïne. Et suite à ça, elle et moi, on avait discuté de pouvoir travailler ensemble. Malheureusement, elle est décédée après. Mais aujourd'hui, je suis sur le siège du Crop Diversity Trust, qui est la banque de semences de la planète. Et j'ai le siège que tenait Wangari Maathai. Et je remercie les étudiants de m'avoir donné l'opportunité de la rencontrer. Je sais qu'aujourd'hui, there are a lot of youth members of the Canadian Science Advisor, so we have to look to our youth because you never know where your connections are going to be coming from. I know we talk about mentorship, but there's reverse mentorship. And the future that we're trying to design is really about how are we preparing this space for future generations. So Dominique and Concordia University really thank you for supporting sustainability in the digital age as the newest Concordia think tank. I also would like to thank the Canadian Science Policy Center, Murdad, for hosting us today. It's a real pleasure. And as Dominique said, we really are thankful to the Fonds de Recherche du Québec for our core operational support that complements all our project funding that we get through different grants, competitive grants that we apply for. So our gathering here at the CSPC this year comes at an opportune time. We're off the heels of the Climate COP27 and leading to the Biodiversity COP15 to be hosted in Montreal in December. These global gatherings are highlighting an urgent need for a just transition, where stakeholders work together for more equal economies and societies while tackling pressing challenges like climate change and biodiversity loss. We are seeing some global progress and momentum towards these goals. For example, there's millions of dollars of new financing that were announced in COP27 for gender-responsive climate action. We also have a new Africa Carbon Markets Initiative that was launched at COP27 that aims to produce 300 million carbon credits annually by 2030 in Africa, where really we have more than 60% of African soils are degraded. So this carbon sequestration will not only be good in terms of mitigation, but it will also be good in terms of healthy soils that can produce food security for a continent that will have its population double between now and 2050. We are also seeing renewable global interest around the value of traditional wisdom on topics like regenerative agricultural practices and nature-based solutions. Earlier, the topic of how do we have agriculture that is zero, that isn't generating carbon emissions is critical. So this idea of how do we have net positive agricultural system is crucial to how we view ourselves and future generations. Here at CSPC, every session is really demonstrating how Canadian leadership will be critical to achieving global commitments and national targets, like protecting 30% of the land by 2030 and reaching net zero by 2050. It is in this global context we are seeing a flourishing of collaborations and cross-sector partnerships for action that I'm pleased to tell you about sustainability in the digital age. It began through multi-stakeholder convenings that were organized by Future Earth at our Canada Hub in 2020 to explore how digital innovation can be used in the support of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This has led to the creation of a research framework created in collaboration with over 250 experts and support from FRQ. Based on this research agenda, sustainability in the digital age is now fully operational as a think tank. We have these three areas of focus: to conduct research, to train young leaders, and to influence policy, all at the nexus of environmental sustainability and digital innovation. I'm excited to tell you briefly about a few key projects, and I encourage you to get involved and contact me if anything resonates with what you're doing. So the Coalition for Digital Environmental Sustainability is an international multi-stakeholder alliance that was created in response to the UN Secretary General's roadmap on digital cooperation. CODE's purpose is to advance digital sustainability while mitigating risks and unintended consequences. In this CODE's initiative, we are working on an international scale with the United Nations Development Program, the United Nations Environmental Program, the International Science Council, the United Nations Tech Envoy's Office, as well as the German Environment Agency, the Kenyan Ministry of Environment. And it's really a great opportunity for us to shape how we're moving forward in the future. How are we harnessing AI for good? How are you looking at misinformation? How do we harness science diplomacy for good at that nexus of sustainability and digitalization? We are also working on more grassroots level with partners in Rwanda and many African countries on a project that uses satellite imagery to produce data-driven insights for sustainable agriculture. Our goal here, working with Planet and Mila, our AI Montreal-based institute, is really to work with smallholder farmers and to build up evidence-based for regenerative agricultural practices that restore soils, hold water, and increase productivity. We know today that floods represent the biggest climate crisis in terms of incidents around the world. So how we have healthy soils that are able to hold more water and be more resilient, how we are setting up green infrastructure that favors climate resilience are really critical elements moving forward. Finally, here in Canada, we're exploring nature-based solutions and Indigenous-led conservation economies with the Conservation Through Reconciliation Partnership and others. In early research, we have identified opportunities for improved reporting, funding, and geographic distribution of nature-based solutions, and we are now exploring how to use digital technologies while engaging Indigenous peoples and local communities in solutions that are co-created. I would like to conclude by really saying that all our work at Sustainability in the Digital Age is about embracing the need to fail forward and to take a solution-oriented approach that helps us co-create an emerging future that will leave the Earth better for future generations. There's an idea I love called positive deviance, and it's really this idea that in any community, there are people whose uncommon and successful behaviors enabled them to find solutions to a problem than their peers that are unable to see, despite facing similar challenges and having extra resources. No extra resources. At Sustainability in the Digital Age, we aim to be positive deviants. We aim to find what is great and scale it for good, for humanity, and for the planet. So thank you once again for the opportunity to speak with you today. We're always looking for new partners. Please reach out and enjoy the rest of the CSPC 2022. And I thank you all for being here today and for all your work you're doing for humanity and the planet, and again, for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dominique and Eliane, for sharing these new initiatives with us, which we know will clearly have very enormous impacts in many different directions. So this afternoon, we will have excellent concurrent sessions starting in about 15 minutes at 1:30, followed by the pre-gala reception for those that have registered for the gala. I'd also like to share that for the panels in French, we will also have simultaneous translation with headphones available at the back of the rooms. As always, don't forget to tag #CSPC and @SciencePolicy on Twitter in your tweets and posts, and please enjoy your afternoon.